All right, let's jump right into this explainer, where we're going to dissect exactly how threat actors are using AI to clone voices and, well, empty bank accounts. If you think your passwords and two-factor authentication are enough to keep you safe, I've got bad news. The information we're unpacking today is going to completely change your threat model. We're looking at a massive vulnerability that bypasses traditional security simply by exploiting human trust.
Let's kick things off with a number that is frankly pretty terrifying. 3. 3 seconds is the exact amount of audio a hacker needs to clone your voice perfectly. That is literally all it takes for an open-weight AI model to generate a conversational quality clone of you. A quick snippet from a YouTube video, a podcast you were on, or actually even just your voicemail greeting. That's enough. It doesn't even need to fool a supercomputer, it just has to fool a human ear.
And look, this is not some dystopian sci-fi theory for the distant future. This is happening right now. Back in March 2026, the cybersecurity firm Aura, a company whose literal entire business is identity protection, suffered a massive breach. They lost 900,000 customer records. And how did it happen? One single employee picked up the phone and was fooled by a cloned voice. Just one conversation completely bypassed their entire enterprise security apparatus.
Section 1. An industrialized epidemic. We really need to ditch this old idea of a lone hacker in a dark basement. What we are seeing is an industrialized, explosive surge. Just look at this trajectory. In 2024, voice phishing increased by 134%. In 2025, it jumped an unbelievable 442%. And in just the first half of 2026, that pace doubled again. This shows us a threat that's evolving way faster than most security systems can even patch against.
To put a face to this threat, the CrowdStrike 2026 Threat Hunting Report actually identified highly organized criminal groups running these voice cloning operations at a massive scale. We're talking about syndicates with names like Cordial Spider and Snarky Spider. They aren't just making one-off calls. They treat AI attacks as scalable infrastructure, building these massive automated pipelines just to carry out fraud.
Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, they'd never target me. But the data says otherwise. 68% of Americans receive scam calls every single week, and a massive 21% get them multiple times a day. Think about that for a second. You might have already spoken to a machine clone on the phone without even realizing it, simply because the tech has become just that seamless.
Section 2. The attack chain explained.
So, how does this actually work? Well, hackers follow a very precise 4-step chain. Step 1 is voice harvesting, where they collect your audio. Step 2 is target selection. Step 3 is the call itself, using your cloned voice. And Step 4 is the follow-through, which is this aggressive secondary attack that can hit you even if you do everything right and hang up. Let's break these down.
The real game changer in this first phase is the stark contrast between old voice scams and these new AI ones. Old scams use these clunky, pre-recorded soundboards. If you asked an unexpected question, the whole illusion just broke. But these new real-time AI clones, they seamlessly adapt. They breathe like you, they pause like you, and they improvise answers right on the fly. It feels exactly like a real, live conversation.
Okay, so once they harvest your voice from a public source, they move to target selection. And they don't just call any random number. They deliberately select targets with specific access or emotional vulnerabilities. They'll go after accounts payable employees who have the power to wire money, or they'll spoof a kid's phone number to panic a parent. Or, like in that Aura breach we talked about, they'll target an employee with Microsoft Entra access.
Let's look at a wild, real-world example from early 2025. Attackers successfully cloned the voice of Italy's defense minister, Guido Crosetto. They called high-profile business executives, claiming a journalist had been kidnapped, and they needed an urgent, off-the-books ransom. It sounded so convincing that these highly experienced execs actually transferred nearly €1 million before the real police could step in and stop it.
We saw this exact kind of industrialized scale hit again in April 2026. The criminal group Shiny Hunters used these precise voice phishing or vishing techniques to breach Charter Communications. They accessed an employee's account using a cloned voice and managed to steal 4.9 million customer records in a single session. Honestly, the efficiency of it is just staggering.
Data from the Verizon 2025 Data Breach Investigations Report really hits the nail on the head as to why this is so dangerous. Almost a fifth, 19% of all data breaches now begin this exact way. Why? because human psychology just isn't wired to be skeptical of a recognized, trusted voice speaking to us live. There are no sketchy links to hover over, no bad grammar to spot in an email. It just sounds exactly like someone you know.
But what happens if you actually spot the scam and hang up? Well, that brings us to step 4, the follow-through. Often involves an adversary-in-the-middle attack, a really dangerous variant that Google documented in June 2026. They'll follow up with a spoofed text message that tricks you into logging in, and then they steal the authenticated session cookie straight from your browser. That completely bypasses your passwords and renders your two-factor authentication absolutely useless.
Section 3. 4 defenses that work.
So how do we actually immunize ourselves against this? Your first immediate action should be establishing a safe word protocol. Choose a specific, totally random word with your family. Something with absolutely no personal connection, like a random color or pet's name. An AI clone trained on your public data simply wouldn't know it. If someone calls claiming an emergency and they can't give you the safe word, the illusion instantly breaks.
Second, and this one is absolutely crucial, you can eliminate 80% of these attacks instantly with one simple rule. Never, ever verify your identity to an inbound caller. It doesn't matter if the caller ID says it's your bank or your boss. Ignore the manufactured urgency, just hang up, look up the official number yourself, and call them back. A legitimate organization is never going to penalize you for being secure.
Third, you've got to proactively lock down your financial accounts. Call your bank and ask to set up a verbal PIN that has to be spoken before any transfers are approved. Then, call your mobile carrier and ask for a port freeze or a SIM lock. This makes sure that nobody can take over your phone number or your bank accounts using a stolen recording of your cloned voice.
Finally, since we know that a healthy dose of skepticism is your only reliable defense against an attack designed to exploit human trust, I want to leave you with a challenge. Have you audited your own voice footprint? Search your name online right now. Find out exactly how much of your voice is already out there on podcasts, conference panels, or social media, just waiting for hackers to harvest. Knowing your exposure completely changes your threat model. Stay aware and stay secure.